Hello everybody, this is Graeme Anderson, and today I'm going to be looking at Vertium Shadows of the Complex. Now Vertium is a game about the colonization of faraway planets after a new element, Vertium, has been found. The game itself is actually split into two halves, a colonization half and a battle half. Both halves are very different, but both have very simple rules. The first half of the game is a set collection in order to place your colonization tokens on a planet, and the second phase is just an all-out dice rolling battle. Now, I'm usually on the lookout for the undiscovered gems, so when I saw this one, I thought it might be an interesting play. As it says, it's a relatively quick game, about 30 minutes to an hour, and I like the set collection mechanism, but not a huge fan of the random dice rolls to determine outcomes. But luckily they say that there's a way to manipulate the dice after you've rolled it. So maybe that will sway me. So, will the two halves of this game come together to create a galactic hit, or is this just a game to be left out drifting in space? Let's get it to the table, see how it's played, and we'll come back for my final thoughts on Vertium Shadows of the Complex. I've set up Vertium for 3 players by placing the appropriate number of planets and orange moons along with the 7 matching objective cards. Each player is dealt 6 cards and draw the top 2 cards from the draw deck to create a supply. The supply must always have 2 different cards face up. Each player is dealt a secret objective card, then finally flip over all the moons. There are 2 main phases to Vertium. The colonization phase, where players are trying to place colonies on the planets until all the planets have been claimed by the players. Then the second phase, when all the players battle it out to see who will be the ultimate winner. The colonization phase will go in clockwise order from the start player. In this phase, you are trying to collect a set of 3 colors in your hand. The first thing you do in your turn is draw a card from the supply. If you ever have a set of colors in your hand, that is 3 of one color, you must play them. Play the set and take one of your matching colonization tokens and place it on a planet that does not already have that color colonization token on it. If you don't have a color set, you can, instead, play one of your disaster cards if you have one, put it in the discard pile, and perform the action. After you've done your action, and it might be that you can do neither option, so you essentially just pass, if you have fewer than 4 cards, draw up to 4. If you add the 4th colonization token to a planet, you place one of your meeples on the planet. You have now colonized that world, and it cannot take any more colonization tokens. It only matters which player places the final colonization token on the planet. Once a planet is colonized, place the number of Vertium that the moon says, and on each of that player's turn, they will move the moon in a counterclockwise position. If the moon is numbered 2 to 3, it is a fast moon, and only needs 4 turns to make a full rotation. A 4 to 7 numbered moon moves slower, and it will take 8 turns to make a full rotation. And after every full rotation of the moon, you add 1 additional Vertium to the planet. Once all the planets have been colonized, the colonization phase ends, and we move to phase 2, the battling phase. First, you reveal the 3 blue moons. The planet with the blue moon gets 2 extra Vertium. The winter eclipse moon loses half of the Vertium on the planet, and the refugee moon can be used during phase 2. Before battling starts, players will reveal their secret objective cards. If you've colonized the planet that is shown in your secret objective card, you receive 3 additional Vertium. Each Vertium is worth a point, and each colonized planet is worth 2 points. The player with the most points is the winner of phase 1. During phase 2, the battling phase, each player will get 3 chances to attack another player's planet. Now the player with the most VP from the first phase will go first. They will pick a planet which they want to attack. The attacking player will move their meeple from one of their planets and as much Vertium as they wish from the planet, but at least 1 Vertium must be left behind, and 1 of the remaining Vertium will become the new meeple of the planet. The attacking player will take the 3 white dice, and the defender will take the 3 black dice. The amount of Vertium is essentially your health. The combat ends when one side has lost all of the Vertium and their meeple. A pink icon is a hit, 2 yellow icons is also a hit, and a green icon blocks 1 hit. Each player can also use their 3 skirmish cards. After both sides rolled, starting with the attacker, they can play one of their skirmish cards to change the value of one of their dice, and the skirmish cards are used once per combat. Any unblocked hit removes a Vertium from the other player. If the player loses their meeple, the combat is over. If the attacking side wins, they place their meeple on the planet and any remaining Vertium on the planet and adds 1 additional Vertium. If the defender wins, they will just add 1 Vertium to the attacked planet. If the defender controls the refugee moon, and if they've lost all their Vertium, their meeple can flee to the moon, and on a subsequent attack turn, they can use that meeple plus Vertium from any of the remaining planets to do their attack. Once each player has had a chance to attack, tally up the VP, and this will set the turn order for the next attack round. And after 3 rounds, the game is over. Total up your victory points, Again, 1 Vertium is a point, and each planet is worth 2 points, and the player with the most points is the winner. Let's get back to see what I thought about Vertium Shadows of the Complex. So, theme and components. I did like that they put a fair bit of backstory into the game. The back of the box gives you a little blurb to give you some context, and the rulebook itself has information on all the different factions who are vying for the planets. So that piece is thematic. Unfortunately, the game itself really doesn't follow through. All the factions play the same. The gameplay is not tied to the theme at all, and I kind of felt that they missed a beat there. As for the components, they're okay. I like the planets and the moons, and the dice are good quality. The cards are okay, and I'm not a big fan of the art, but for all art, it's a personal preference. The rest of the components are what I would consider average components. So on to the gameplay. So let me start with some positives that I did like in the game. Now, I always like secret objectives as it helps me tailor my strategy when I approach a game. The moons were a good idea, each planet being worth a different amounts of Vertium and moving at different speeds to generate more Vertium. Neat idea. I also like the use of the skirmish cards in the battle phase of the game. And the game being split into 2 halves was an interesting design concept. Now, I did have some issues with the game. Let's start with the colonization phase. There seemed to be very little in the way of decisions to be made. If you get a set of 3 cards, you must play it. You get to choose which 2 cards you take, but you can't draw a blind off the deck. So if you get a set of 3, you must play it and place your token. Now, you do get to choose on which planet to place a token on, but no one wanted to play the 3rd token on a planet because it doesn't matter if you place 3 out of 4 tokens on a planet. It's whoever places the last token gets the planet. Really? So it's really just better to let the other players do the work and just swoop in at the last minute to take the planet with the last token. But you can't do that because, as I said before, if you have a set of 3 cards, you must play it. I don't have a choice. The rulebook has a strategy tip. When placing the 3rd colonization token on a planet, examine your cards to see if you have a good chance to play the 4th one on a subsequent turn. That implies you have some more control over the flow of the game than you actually do. No, if you have a set, you must play it. I must play that token. So I'm going to be placing my 1st token. Now, do I place it on my secret objective cards, or do I try and throw people off and put it somewhere else? It doesn't matter. If someone has the cards to place a token on a planet to capture it, they will. They don't care if you placed your 1st token on there. You've actually helped them out because you made it easier to get. Now, with all that being said, each player only has a finite set of tokens, so you can only place 4 of each color, and that may sway your decisions somewhat. And if you have no tokens left on your color and you collect a matching set of a color that you don't have a token of, do you know what you do in your turn? Discard the set. That's your entire turn. That doesn't feel that fun to me. The orbiting moons is a good idea, but man, it was annoying during the game to have to keep on reminding people, and remember myself, that we needed to move the moons on every player's turn. Now, the other issue I had was the disaster cards. I didn't go through them all in the walkthrough, so I'll quickly kind of mention them now. You have the next 2 players miss their turn. 1 player discards their entire hand. Remove 1 blue token from an uncolonized planet, or better yet, the other card is remove all green tokens from all uncolonized planets. And the final card is either steal a card or Vertium from another player. Not a big fan of these take that actions, as it really tended to slow the game down, and that's really not what the game needed. It needed to be sped up a bit. So you finish phase 1, add up all your points, and that just decides who goes first in the 2nd phase. Now, you can stop the game here and say I'm not going to do the battle phase and just see whoever wins based on the points. But let's assume you go into phase 2. My biggest issue with this phase is the Vertium you have are points. So when you attack another planet, you're potentially giving up points, as you might lose some Vertium and your captain meeple, and you're also weakening your position on the original planet, because you can't redistribute your Vertium after you've won. So if I take my captain meeple and 2 Vertium, I'm giving up potential points. So why am I going to do this? Because the rules say I must. And the fights themselves are just a die roll. Now, I do like that you have 3 skirmish cards and each one can only be used once per battle, but if you roll better, you will win the battle. And honestly, if I have more Vertium, I can probably outlast you and end up winning the game. I'm actually okay with that. It's a quick, simple format for combat. Not one I particularly like, but it works. There actually is another method of combat in the rules called the American style battling, which adds the ability that when it's your turn to attack, you can actually attack multiple planets. You attack one and then you make a decision, am I going to attack a next one? And if you're using this combat method, the game ends when one person controls all the planet and they will win, or no one can attack anymore because they only have captains left, and you just add up the value of the planets, which is based on the moons. I do want to mention that there are 2 expansions in the box, a 1 versus all and a way to kind of build planetary defenses. The planetary defenses one kind of lengthens the game a bit, and I wasn't a big fan of, but the all versus 1 was a neat idea. So after all that, would I recommend this game? I don't think I would. I like the secret objectives. The idea of the speed of the orbiting moons generating more Vertium as they rotated was an interesting one. And the idea of the game in two halves is an unusual but intriguing concept, and I like using the skirmish cards to modify my battle rolls. And the game is reasonably quick, but the randomness and lack of meaningful decisions and the simplistic nature of the game really didn't appeal to me along with some of the other game ideas. And the high degree of luck. Is your secret objective on a planet worth lots of Vertium? Great. Is the blue moon going to remove half the Vertium on your planet? Not great. Someone steals your planet with the only colonization token they put on it because they drew the right card at the right time. Oh well, it's their planet now. So, I'm going to give Vertium a 5 out of 10. I understand that they were trying to make a lighter game that anyone could play. But for me, that resulted in a game I just didn't enjoy. So that's it for the moment. Until next time, thanks for watching.